Hello, my name is Janice B. Gordon. This is Scale Your Sales podcast. Welcome to the Scale Your Sales podcast, listed number 9 of 42 best podcasts for every sales professional in 2021. I am Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert, recommended by LinkedIn as one of 15 innovative sales influencers to follow in 2021. My next guest is an authentic selling crusader, helping sales founders, women business owners, and sales leaders around the globe empower their people to develop high-performance resilience and unstoppable confidence. She has an amazing gift of clarity, is renowned for inspiring and implementing experiential sales excellence. So welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Meshell Baker.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad to be here, Janice. This is absolutely incredible. And I love the fact that we're in different time zones in different countries. How fun is that we can do things like that these days?
Exactly, isn't it? And certainly the pandemic has taught us, we've had this technology around for a long time, but it was kind of that thing on the side was actually it became essential to all of our businesses and sales. And so it's wonderful that we can also reach more easily global audiences that can relate to, because we're all in the same place, aren't we, in the same space.
Exactly.
So I'm really interested in how you create unstoppable confidence, and especially in light of we've all been through quite a lot of challenges and change in the last couple of years. So what do you do to actually assist your audience of sales leaders to develop unstoppable confidence?
What a great question. And people are often skeptical when I tell them things like that. And it's the work I do, I liken it to the psychology of selling. So what generally happens is in sales, I have, extensive background in corporate sales, right? And I'm doing it as an entrepreneur. What I see most people are focused on is what they can get, right? And how to sell. So they're just focused on this process, right? That's very, consistent. Like if I do this, I'll get that. Instead of focusing on how they show up as a human, right? I say business is a contact sport, right? It's human to human connections. And when you are not dealing with who you are and how you deal with differences and circumstances and situations, then emotionally, you're not equipped for someone to say no, right? You're not equipped for the sale to go a certain way. When it doesn't go your way, you immediately go into panic. So being unstoppable means that in the face of whatever happens with that buyer, with that prospect, in my business, I am still prepared to have a conversation about how I can help you transform your business or your outcomes with the solutions that I offer as a seller.
And that is a brilliant segue to let the audience know that both you and I are co-authors on the book that has just launched, Heels to Deals, and talking about the experiences of sales leaders and sharing that and encouraging women that are looking to go into careers or to entice them into a career in sales, but also women that are already in sales. And I think when you pick up this book, because it's stories that you can relate to wherever you are in the world, there's always going to be something in there because there's so many personal stories. It gives you confidence. It gives you that you are in the right place. You're not going mad. You're not alone. There is someone else that's sharing the experience that you're going through. So that, it's really good that you talk about unstoppable confidence, because I think that the book does that. What's your view?
I would completely agree. One of the things that I tell audiences when I'm speaking is that, you know, we are equipped for a moment in time, right? So in order to get an outcome, you need input. So if there's been no input for your mind and your emotions to believe that in the face of a situation, I can, then you can't. And the book is a great example of someone equipping themselves with all the stories of all these women to remind you, and you go through the stories and you read them and you'll be amazed at what happens in the next moment. Your mind is going to reflect back on, wait, I can do this, because if one person can, anyone can. It's just that most individuals have not equipped themselves properly so that in the face of a situation, they can create the desired outcome because there's been no input. And this book is incredible input.
It certainly is. It certainly is. So again, talking about the recent challenges and change, and making yourself equipped to those challenges and change, getting the right input for the output. Do you think that B2B sellers have shifted enough, salespeople have shifted enough to really focus on their buyers and their customers and be customer centric?
Well, I won't say enough. I'll say that there is a shift that's happening. You know, right now we are finding that on the heels of the pandemic, the world has become more conscious and aware, and they are really looking for businesses that are making an impact in some way in their communities, right? And give back or have some type of socially responsible behaviors in how they do business. So in B2B, more than ever, they're looking, right? We have a generation that's coming up that are going to be many of our sellers, and they want to work with businesses that matter, that are doing things that are matter and are mindful of how they do business. So I see that that's beginning to happen more and more, but then we also have the great resignation happening, right? So there's a lot of turnover. You're finding that people in a year will have had 6 to 8 jobs, which is, right? You and I come from a generation where that wasn't even heard of, right? That person wouldn't even be a thought. They wouldn't even get an interview. Now it's, you know, that's who your qualified candidate is. So I see that there's more humanizing of how business is done and how companies are treating the people they're bringing on as their sellers. So there is a shift happening. It is, you know, steering the Titanic, so it's going to be a lot slower than people would want. And I believe that in order for you to continue to thrive as an organization in the ever-changing world, it is going to happen.
I love your positivity, which is fantastic. So let me extend that a little bit further and ask you about diversity in the B2B sales industry, whether you feel it has progressed.
Okay, like, so now I'm challenged to say this in a positive way. I mean, that I would say is a lag. It's a lot slower. What I see on a personal, as I have, like, you know, when I see a post or a company or something, what I generally do is go look at their leadership. I go look at their board of directors, right? And then I go look at their marketing campaign and their website. And there is huge disconnect in what we see happening. They're spending money on marketing diversely, right? On promoting themselves diversely, but not as much on bringing in leadership. And leadership are the ones who make the decision to have people that generally look like them, right? So again, it's happening. It's just happening a little bit slower. And again, right, as we have more and more diverse qualified candidates, and we're showing the data and the research is showing that companies who are diverse actually outperform, right? The more diverse they are, the more they outperform in their results, their revenues, their income, their sales. So it will pick up. I really believe that it will. It's just happening a little bit slower.
Yeah, yeah. And the book, Heels to Deals, I mean, it's a global sales leaders. I was absolutely astounded. And I know that Heidi was really very targeted to make sure that we had a diversity of people representing. But actually, when you look at it, wow, the diversity of people that are in sales, when you take a global point of view, I was absolutely astounded, because you want a variety of stories and representation. There are
Yes.
more women that are in purchasing than ever before, and unless, you know, there's more diversity in purchasing than ever before, unless that's representative in your sales team, in your dialogue, in your messaging, all of that, it feels back, then, you know, there's a disconnect. And when there's a disconnect, there's a lack of trust, and trust is absolutely key in sales. So I thought that the book Heels to Deals really represented that diversity. I don't know what your view is.
I was so pleasantly heartwarmed that I said, because, you know, initially you don't know who, right? When you say yes, you didn't know who the other writers were, right? We just knew we were one of 20. And then when I saw who the other writers were, oh, like I was so proud to be a part of something that was globally diverse, right? It wasn't just like, oh, it was the States and there's a bunch of us. It's worldwide diversity, which we're seeing is what's happening in the B2B marketplace, because like you and I are here, 2 different countries, 2 different time zones. We're capable of this on a global level. And I was just really, really excited to see that, because again, people reading that will start to understand that it's not, you're not limited to one continent. You're not limited to one time zone or one place, that you can create success, sales success, B2B sales success anywhere your heart desires. So
absolutely, it's wonderful. And the book, the Girls Who Sell, the aim is to encourage more women into a sales career, but the book also shares the stories of women that are already in sales. And that's the thing that's quite gratifying, is because when you read it, you think, oh, I resonate with this other person in sales. They understand me. So it's not only encouraging people into sales, but also it inspires people that are also in sales. And it's very gratifying. I really do hope that companies take this book on board as a way to encourage their entire, whether you're man, woman, you know, new to a career, to encourage people in sales, because it is very, very inspiring.
yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think about when I was in sales, and, you know, I did pharma and medical device and biotech. And often my ability to do well had me promoted to teams where nobody looked like me, right? So there weren't a lot of women, or there weren't a lot of minorities. So having a story, you know, that would resonate with me would have strengthened me and encouraged me. I found it even then, but this is like almost a shortcut, right? To because wherever you are on a successful path or journey, you're always going to hit a space where there's going to be a loneliness, a sense of you're feeling like I'm alone. I've never done this before, and you're almost. But believe it or not, there's always someone who's done something, right? That's similar, or that's almost exactly like you, that'll strengthen and encourage you. So having it at your fingertips in a book is absolutely incredible.
Yes. Thank you. That's brilliant. So tell me, what tried and tested strategy would you offer listeners, Meshell?
So my tried and true strategy in the work that I do is all around mindset. I really believe that when you look at top performing sellers, their struggle is rarely ever with, I have to need to get a client or a sale, right? Because they're actually in that space where they can't not sell, right? Because they have made it part of their identity, and they've habituated it, right? Which requires daily activities. It requires having And the only way to create that is to have a vision of something greater. And most people vision is they don't want to fail. I don't want to miss quota, right? I don't want to not get a sale, right? I don't want to not pay my mortgage or car note. So they're focused on what they don't want, not realizing that you're creating that. You're creating this constant sense of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, instead of getting clear on why did you decide to become a seller? And that's what I do when I work with teams and organization, is help their sellers to really think about why sales is important and how to focus on something positive, right? So that in the midst of, again, your quota changing, they didn't say you worked all this time on this deal and it didn't go through, right? All the different things that happen, you can stay positive and focus on creating outcomes regardless of circumstance, because everything outside of you is finite. Everything inside of you is infinite. And that's what most people don't realize. They are looking at circumstances outside of themselves, dictating how they feel versus deciding what I'm going to create, and then turning circumstances into favorable, right, situations that help them create their desired outcome. So my tried and true is to get people clear and then to teach them how to stay clear.
Excellent, excellent. That's brilliant. Now, I'm really intrigued on who is your Shiro.
Oh, okay. I know I wrote this and I had to think about this when you wrote the question, and I sat, and the first person that came to mind, I'm like, oh, wow, do you say that? And I was like, well, you got to honor it's the first person. My journey of my business, how I show up in the world, how I speak, what I teach is all around helping people. The term is take captive their thoughts, right? Because we have anywhere, they've shown, right? Anywhere from, it could be 20 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And it's the voice in your head that's in control, as I remind people. It's that moment in time where you are faced with something that the voice in your head is either propelling you forward in the belief that you can create whatever you want, or it's causing you to freeze, stop, doubt, and second guess. And so the book was by Joyce Myers. My background come from Baptist, Baptist faith, and a lot of church growing up. And so Joyce Myers was big, and she had this book called Battlefield of the Mind. And it really talked about taking captive your thoughts. And I remember clearly at that moment of time that I just remember, it was almost like a frozen moment in time. And I thought, if I could take captive my thoughts, my life would be amazing. And that was the journey. And that has been the journey. And she came from an incredibly abusive, traumatic background, and is a world-renowned minister and has ministries, and all she does, and it's because of her faith. It's because of her belief that she's here to do something greater, to create something greater in the world and leave the world better. And that's what I believe I'm here to do. And it's absolutely, my quest has never stopped.
I absolutely love that. And I think it's a great note to leave listeners with, to take captive of your thought. I do a lot of yoga and meditation, and that's all about quietening your thoughts, to be intuitive with where you are, to be present, and mindfulness. And especially, going through the pandemic, all of these things are absolutely key. So that's wonderful. And I think it's so important going forward. So thank you so much, Meshell, for sharing that with us. And how can listeners get hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me is, I love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. My name spelled Meshell, R Baker is my handle. So you can find me on any social media channel. You can also put that in Google and come right to my website and any of my, to find any way, but connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message, let's have a conversation. And if you go to my About Me, there'll be a link there if you want to jump on my calendar. I'd love to have a conversation. And I always tell people, if I can't help you, I'm part of a wonderful group of women sales pros, which Janice is also a member, right? I could always find an incredible woman in sales that will leave you so much better. You'll be amazed at how incredible your team or your company is performing in sales.
Thank you for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast, Meshell Baker. thank you for listening to this week's episode of Scale Your Sales podcast. If you like this discussion, feel free to listen to other episodes or watch the captioned show on YouTube and subscribe to future episodes. I would really appreciate it if you would leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you.